Hello learners, I am Dr. Subodh Kesarwani working with Indira Gandhi National Open University. The topic which I am going to talk today is e-governance. We know that the government is going to play a very vital role as far as any country is concerned, and governance is something which is going to streamline the whole process. So that is the reason we always believe that there is a good governance and there is a bad governance. So we will definitely go through, as far as this particular session is concerned, we will definitely talk about what exactly the governance is and how the government is, with the help of this good governance, become blue-eyed among their citizens and take care about the welfare of the country and society as a whole. So when you go more into the depth of this e-governance, this is basically electronic governance, and this electronic governance is not only facilitate in transforming the own country or countrymen, but also expect improved relations and healthy trade across the world. So when you talk about the governance, it is not confined to the country jurisdiction, or if you talk in an Indian perspective, it's not in an Indian jurisdiction, but take care about the foreign alliances, liaising with the international associations, international world, and on the other hand, benefiting the society by and large. So electronic governance, which is known as e-governance, is the application of IT for delivering government services, exchange of information, communication transactions, integration of various standalone systems between government to citizens, government to business, government to government, and government to employees. So what we observe that we all have heard about, when I was talking on e-commerce, I was talking on B2B, that is business to business. Then the B2C was there, business to consumers. Right now this model, this pedagogy had been changed, and what we observed that this government to citizen had come up. So there was a term called B2B, B2C when we talk in an e-commerce perspective, and today we are talking about G2C, that is government to citizens and government to business. And somewhere the government to government interaction is going on, like the central government interact with the state governments, prime ministers PMO office interact with the CMO, that is chief minister office. So all those things are there. So government to employee is also one of the thing, like, because in any country we find out 10 to 15% people are working in a government sectors, they are known as the government employees. So there also this model is going to play a very important role. So what we observe that if you see this particular image, you will find out that citizens are at the one end, then you have G2C philosophy, that is government to citizens, then there is central government, then there is local government, and finally G2B is there, that is government to business. And finally what is happening, that business, NGOs and civil societies are voluntarily working as a non-government organization. Civil societies are working in a charitable mode. So this is all about the governance, like how we can streamline the process, so by and large the country is going to be benefited, and the citizens who are reaching to the unreached, they can also get the benefit of that. So when we go more into the depth of this e-governance terminology, there are 4 terminologies which are quite omnipresent. That is e-administration, then you have got e-services, then we have e-governance and e-democracy. If you go more into the depth of this e-administration, the use of ICT to modernize the state, the creation of data repositories for MIS, computerization of record, because what is going on, we all have moved from brick and mortar system to click and mortar systems, and there was a time when we were just confined to certain things, and there were certain sectors, certain segments which were open for this electronic transactions or thing. But right now across the board you find out, either you talk about the administration, or you talk about the governance, or you talk about the learning, or you talk about the commerce is already changing with the change of time. So where all of they have a great impact. And the biggest example like the Aadhaar card, we have seen that how the DBT model is going up, like direct bank transfer, and Manrega scheme is there, where money is not directly going into the bank accounts of the beneficiaries. So this is all the beauty of the e-governance. And if you talk about the e-services, the emphasis here is to bring the state closer to the citizens. Examples include provision of online services, and e-administration and e-services together constitute what is generally termed as e-government. So e-governance is the use of IT to improve the ability of government to address the needs of society. Because when you talk about the governance, it is something which is part and parcel of the government it's a moral duty of the country. But when you when you put the prefix called E, you are more emphasized towards the electronic word, more emphasized towards the online, and more usage of the technology. So it includes the publishing of policy program. So more or less it's more like the paperless kind of thing, where it can take care of many things, like electronic payment system is there, electronic fund transfer is there. The state governments collect the taxes on behalf of the states, and then transfer that amount to that. So use of IT for strategic planning and reaching development goals of the government. So this is where then you have got e-democracy, the use of IT to facilitate the ability of all sections of society to participate in the governance of the state. The remit is much broader here, with a stated emphasis on transparency, accountability, and participation. And examples are online disclosure policies, online grievance redress forums, and e-referendums, conceptually more potent and applicable. Now while going into the depth of this e-governance, we have observed that this whole characteristics of government and governance is bifurcated into 4 important terms. One is called government, then we have got governance, then we have got e-government, and then we have got e-governance. So what we observe that there in the beginning stage, the government is there, then government with the help of the good governance mobilize the things, and then take the help of the technology, which usually called the e-government, and then e-governance is there. So if you go more into the depth of government, you will find out there is superstructure, decisions, rules, roles, and implementations, and outputs are there. Because when the government come up in the power, they have got certain mandates, they have got certain manifestos, and on the basis of that they serve. And there are certain the things which the country used to provides them. So certain protocols they have to maintain. So all these things are the government is there. So government, then governance is there. So governance is functionality, processes, goals, performance, coordination, and outcomes. Because the intention of the government is to rules, whereas the intention of the governments is to perform and coordinate, and end of the day come to the execution. So if the government role is to implement the things, purpose of the governments is to execute the process. So e-government is electronic service delivery, electronic workflow, electronic voting, electronic productivity, whereas e-governance is electronic consultation, electronic controllership, electronic engagement, and network societal guidance. So when you talk about the network societal guidance, we talked about the management information system, or the information and communication technology, or enterprise resource planning, which are working as a integrated softwares and try to integrate all the departments. Either it could be the departments which are scattered, or which are linked with one another. So intention is that everybody should be benefited with the help of integration. So when you go more into the depth of e-governance, the concept of governance is not new. We know that it is as old as human civilizations. Simply put, governance means the process of decision making and the process by which the decisions are implemented or not implemented. So that is more important. So there the role of good governance comes. So governance can be used in several contexts, such as corporate governance, international governance, national governance, and local governance. So what we observe that these are the 4 parameters which are quite important, and then people around the world requires to stay connected to the government for access to information public services. So it's not like there are many ways by the governance is going to be streamlined, like the passports and visa, giving of visa to the foreign citizens, or what parameters are there. So all those are part of, end of the day, the intention behind is that ease of doing, like so that thing can be mobilized faster, and it can reach to the unreached in a more in a shorter span with a systematic approach. So e-governance implies technology driven governance that connects the government and citizens for better government services and simplified and efficient communication systems. So this leads to cost effective by high quality service and increased transparency. So when you talk about the e-governance, there are 4 things which are quite important into it. One is the resource, then technology, then process, and people. So the intention behind is that these 4 things can be integrated and linked with one another. So now there are certain issues related to e-governance, and when we go more into the depth of it, we find out that issues are economic, technical, and social issues. When you go more into the depth of economic, you find out that cost maintainability, portability and reusability is one of the ingredients of economics. And then when you talk about the social issues, it could be accessibility, usability, use of local languages, awareness of e-governance. Awareness of e-governance is quite important because the phobia among the citizens is there that the technology is not their cup of tea, but it's not like that. When you talk about the usage of technology, it's quite user friendly and how you're going to use that. So we have seen that when people have migrated from computer to smartphone, the phobia was that how we can work on a smaller screen, but when you go more into the depth, you find out working on a smarter phone is quite easier than working on a computer. So that is the reason the e-commerce shifted from commerce to e-commerce, then e-commerce shifted to m-commerce. So now other thing is that technicality like interoperability, security, privacy and authentication. This is more important because we have a 3 thought-provoking sessions which was on e-commerce, then we have e-banking and electronic payment systems. There this banking role is quite important. So governance also plays a very vital role when you talk about the banking and how there is a paradigm shift from banking to e-banking and how the authentication, privacy and security incorporates into it. So that is all about the thing which is there, and there are contemporary trends in e-governance. E-governance should induce up-to-date informations, initiates effective interactions and engage with transparent transactions in compliance with rule of law, thus enabling a sustainable transformation mode. And the sustainability is something which is going to play a very vital role. We all come up with a contemporary thought, good ideas, and sometimes make a mind-boggling things, but we never believe that believe in sustainability, because you initiating anything or starting anything is quite easy, but how to sustain and how to transform so that it can become cup of tea for a common man, that is more important. And the Indian government, as far as Indian government is concerned, they are coming up with a lot of the contemporary thought like Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is somewhere making the Indian citizens self-sustained. So this is the philosophy behind that if you are self-sustained, you can very easily transform the things, and you can do the things by your own. There is no need to take a help of the gamut of functionaries or the people who are in that governance. So that is the way. So intention behind is that the charity begins at home, and we can start the process by which the thing can go on. So this public-private partnership-based e-governance projects are hugely successful in India, and many countries implement e-governance policy in attempt to build a corruption-free government, because the corruption is something which is a very serious issue as any government is concerned. So and how you are going to regulate, how you are going to monitor, and how you are going to make the system transparent, so that the country by and large is going to be benefited, and on the other hand citizens are not going to face certain things by what the corruption used to explode. So if you go more into the depth of this e-governance, you find out there is external strategic objectives, and then you have got internal strategic objectives. The external objectives of e-government is to satisfactorily fulfill the public needs and expectations on the front office side by simplifying their interactions with various online services, and then there is an effective interaction with the public. So and if you talk about the internal strategic objectives, it is more like government websites on the internet, political, social, economic and technological aspects determine e-governance, and the back office activity, how the back office activity is going to be regulate and interlinked, and the objectives of e-government in government operations to facilitate a speedy, transparent, accountable, efficient and effective process for performing government administration. So this is, and what is the difference between, I have talked the term called, governance and government. There are certain difference. What the most formal is a government and the body whose sole responsibility and authority is to make binding decisions in a given geopolitical systems. So this is government, and governance is the way rules, norms and actions are structured. So e-government uses one-way communication protocol, whereas e-governance uses two-way communication protocol. So it is, the intention behind is that the government impose certain policies, and with the help of governments, we get the follow-ups, how it is going to be executed and implemented. So when you talk about the governance, it should be more powerful and need to be good governance. So e-participation is hence closely related to e-government and e-governance. Then it also emerged as the need to distinguish between the roles of citizens and customers has become more pressing. So from government to e-governance, we have observed that transformation through e-participation, e-government policy can be insular with policy outcomes delivered in a top-down manner, If you see this particular image, you find out there is social media, transparency and public trust. Then you have policy making, public trust. So issues that are popular in social media can directly affect government policy making and government accountability. So accountability is something which is a part and parcel of e-governance. And then there is a good governance, because the intention behind any government is to facilitate the things and work on the ease of doing policy. So good governance always believes that, as we have seen, that governance is the process of decision making and the process by which decisions are implemented. So governance can be used in several contexts, such as corporate governance, international governance. And when you talk about the good governance, is an approach to government that is committed to creating a system founded in justice and peace that protects individual human rights and civil liberties. Individual human right is quite important, and on the basis of that, United Nations, which are pioneer in this and have worked on the 8-factor model, which believes that good governance is measured by these 8 factors and emphasize on participation, rule of law, transparency, responsiveness, consensus oriented, equity and inclusiveness, effectiveness and efficiency, and accountability. So if you go more into this 8 law is talks about if you talk about the participation, it requires that all groups, particularly those most vulnerable, have direct or representative access to the systems of government. This manifests as a strong civil society and citizens with the freedom of association and expression. Now the rule of law is exemplified by impartial legal systems that protect the human rights and civil liberties of all citizens, particularly minorities. This is indicated by an independent judicial branch and police force free from corruption. So rule of law is there. Then transparency means the citizen understand have access to the means and manner in which decisions are made, especially if they are directly affected by such decisions. This information must be provided in an understandable and accessible format, typically translated through the media. So responsiveness simply involves that institutions respond to their stakeholders with a reasonable time frame. Consensus oriented is demonstrated by an agenda that seeks to mediate between the many different needs. Whereas equity and inclusiveness depends on ensuring that all the members of a community feel included and empowered to improve or maintain their well-being, especially those individuals and groups that are most vulnerable. On the other hand, effectiveness and efficiency is developed through the sustainable use of resources. We have already talked about that sustainability is quite important. The governments of any country come up with massive amount of projects, and out of that only 10%, 15% get in the final shape or get the success. So sustainability is quite important, and sustainability refers to both ensuring social investment carry through and natural resources are maintained for future generations. That is more important. So accountability refers to institutions being ultimately accountable to the people and one another. This includes government agencies, civil society and the private sector are all being accountable to one another as well. So this governance is not confined to the people who are in urban areas, but the people for the rural areas where the things are required in a more systematic manner. So in there what we observe that there is a Jila Parishad fund monitoring system, then you have got Gavdhan Jan Bandi project, then you have got village book, and lot of mobile apps are there, geographical information systems are there, liability registers are there. So what all these things are going, it is going to make people aware who are in the rural areas, because when you compare with the urban people with the rural people, urban people are more techno savvy, whereas rural people are not so much techno savvy. But somewhere the technology is with them, the smartphone have reached to them also, and the learning is going on. So this hybrid learning and learning through videos, learning through documentaries is definitely going to add a feather in a cap. So there are certain e-governance models, and when you talk about the project assessment of scalability, e-service development, interoperability standards, we have seen that this whole cost and time project is bifurcated into 4 phases. Phase 1 talks about information, phase 2 talks about interactions, phase 3 talks about transactions, and phase 4 talks about transformation. So it starts with the information, and finally we can transform based on the customization, based on the approach. So government to employee is something which is quite important, because any project can be like, if the good governance is there, end of the day the employee who are associated with the government is one of the important pillars, one of the important ingredients. So the 4 main primary interactions and delivery mode of e-governance, it is a relationship between online tools, sources, and it can help employees to maintain the communication with the government with their own companies. So e-governance relationship with employees allows new learning technology in one simple place as the computers. Now you have observed that G2E services are also there, which talks more about the e-payroll, e-benefits, e-training, e-learning, and maintaining records of personal information. So we have observed that that e-benefit is able to look up what benefits an employee is receiving and what benefits they have a right to. And when you talk about training, because grooming is quite important, if you are not going to train the people and if you are not going to train your employees, ultimately they are not, because the way technology is changing, we have moved from the simple ICT or the internet to the latest trend like artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, or machine learning or deep learning. So what we observed that this had given a change in the training process also, and learning is also going to be changed, because there was a time when learning was purely on text based, but right now what we observe that it is purely visual, animation and video based. So it usually a computer based learning tool need to be imbibed, and also a way for employees to learn at their own pace, because the way the things had been changed, the lockdown had come up, the pandemic stage had come up, people are not coming out from their home. So the distance learning model need to be developed, where they can learn from their place at their doorstep. So this is called the learning 4.0, and what they exactly want to do. So a lot of the current trends, the current technology is coming up, and they can able to do that. So it allows the system to keep all the records in one easy location to update. So this maintaining records of personal information also going to play a very vital role. And if you talk about India's digital identity infrastructure, the government has initiated a lot of projects like Manrega is there, which is for the common people, and then you have got Unique Identification Authority of India, which is coming up with a product called Aadhaar. So the aim of the UID is to provide a real-time service for verifying the identity of any Indian residents through biometrics and demographic informations. So the government has initiated delivery of service and several welfare schemes which have been intended to uplift and benefit the bottom line of the citizens in society. Because if you are going to uplift the bottom line of the people who are deprived, under-marginalized, or not getting a privilege to come up, then you can work, and then the purpose behind the governance is need to be resolved. So this further governments have been successful in linking Aadhaar number with several welfare schemes like LPG subsidy, which we used to call direct bank transfer, DBT, scholarship to the students, pensions and public distribution systems, to pass the benefits of the authorized persons only. Now what we observed that this e-governance had been redefined with the change of time. So if you see this particular image, you will find out that the robots or cobots we used to say it's a collaborative effort of human and robots, and the robots are helping a lot. So this e-governance is redefined again, and NEGD is an independent business division which is established by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology within Media Lab Asia to undertake program management of NEGP. So NEGD acts as one of the key catalysts and interrogators for initiatives under mission mode projects and support components under NEGP 2.0 across the country. So what we observe that NEGD is also expected to proactively support central ministries, departments, then state governments in propagation of their e-governance initiatives. Now, how e-government uses ICT, that is more important, because there are a blended approach which is going on. Somewhere we find that some states are quite good in technology, so the metropolitan cities and the upcoming metropolitan cities, whereas some cities are not good in ICT because lack of the infrastructures, technological infrastructure. It could be a broadband or the internet connectivity or internet of things. So there we have observed that it is going to affect so there the good governance is going to play a very important role. So the appropriate application of e-government allows for higher level of effectiveness and efficiency in government tasks, improvement of process and procedures, increase the quality of public services, also improves the use of information decision making process, and allows for better communication among different governmental services. So it's not like that the underdeveloped countries or the small countries or the countries who are in a good position like established countries are following the governance. If you talk about, every country develops certain pedagogy, certain approaches, and with their own effort and pace they do the things. But the challenge comes how they are going to be executed and how they are going to sustain certain projects, because when you start any projects, when you develop any infrastructures, it requires cost, and if you shut down that projects, it's the waste of the public money. So the government needs to be quite serious into it, and they whatever the initiatives they used to take, whatever they can forecast in a more systematic manner, so that finally when they execute the project, it could achieve the final end. So sometimes what we happen, the project discontinued in between, and this can give a huge loss, because again you have to discontinue the project and start a journey from scratch. So technology is processing, and if you see that Organization of American States, which we usually call OAS, supports many things, and e-government there, what we observed that had changed with the change of time, and it improves services and efficiency and become more connected to other parts of the society. So what I was talking about, there are certain technologies which are linked with e-governance and giving a very good shape to the governance and facilitating towards moving towards a good governance. So AI and e-governance have been a buzz since the United Nations called its member to integrate intelligent applications. So when you talk about the intelligent application, there is a use of the machine learning or artificial intelligence, and the UN aims at implementing e-governance to help developing and underdeveloped countries in saving the cost and time of the government, as it can be better economic growth driving factor, because what we observe that it can somewhat reduce the file process. So AI and its subdomain technologies have the potential to ameliorate the several existing structural inefficiencies to offer satisfied government functionaries. And when we go more into the depth of AI and deep learning, it can prove to be very helpful in detecting duplication under various e-government services, which help in government to save a lot of money, because when the technology enters, it can make the thing paperless, and transaction could be more electronic mode, and save of money, other things. Now what we observe that there are some new technologies coming up, like the blockchain technology. These blockchain technologies are something which was started by Satoshi Nakamoto almost a decade or 2 decades back, and the intention was very clear to regulate the virtual currencies, which is known as the bitcoins or Ethereum, or some of the the social networking players. If you talk about the Facebook and all, they are coming up with their product called Libra. So but now the blockchain had come up one step ahead, and they are serving a lot to the institutions, to the government institutions, to the governments, to the banking industry, and there we observe that it had massively helped the governance in a big manner. Either it could be talking about the bills and payments, or welfare distribution schemes, or digitalized IDs, or healthcare, cyber protection, security and safety, taxation, and legal enforcement. So what we observe that across the board, you find out this blockchain technology is helping. So this is something which, because it is something which can link, and the data is linked with the clouds, and with the help of this cloud and other things, very easily one can able to work on a real time manner. So this real time approach is quite contemporary, because it can, so somebody like the best example is that if somebody had a citizen of a country of, say, they have taken Aadhaar card, so how they are going to if they are going to make certain amendments in the Aadhaar card, so on a real time basis it can be uploaded on the server, and it can be done at that juncture only. So if you talk about the legislation records, in there also this ledger technology is there. So in legislation records, in healthcare, governments can improve healthcare services by utilizing distributed ledgers. So welfare schemes are there, taxation schemes are there. So wherever there's chances of the corruption, the malpractices, this blockchain technology had played a very vital role and involved into it. So I think we have talked a lot about governance, and we know that how the things are going to be changed with the help of governance, and when the governance has taken a shape of a good governance, it can do the ease of doing. So ease of doing is a guru mantra behind the policy of any country, and this is definitely going to strengthen the country policies and process, and we hope that this session can somewhere helpful to the learners as far as e-governance is concerned. And we have one more session related to e-governance, which revolves in the Indian perspective scenario, which purely talks about what the government of this country had made and developed. Thank you very much.